Welcome to Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living with your host, Rosalind Sadaka. Join Rosalind each week on a journey toward overcoming life's many challenges to achieve peace, empowerment, and positive transformation. It's time to relax, unwind, and transform your life with Rosalind Sadaka.
Hello, everyone. This is Rosalind Sadaka, and I want to welcome you once again to the Going Solo Network, WGSN-DB, and this show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living. I'm excited to have you all with me today, and I'm very excited about our special guest. Her name is Joanne Simmons, and Joanne is a mental health counselor as well as a coach and an author, and she has some wonderful qualities, and she's been doing this. She's been immersed in this work for a long, long time, so she has a wealth of information to share with us. I'm going to let Joanne give us her own perspective on her background and tell us about her. So welcome, Joanne, to the show.
Well, thank you, Roz. I'm so happy to be here.
Right. Why don't you tell our listeners about your background?
Sure. Primarily what I do is I show single women who are over 40 who want to find their soulmate, but they're struggling with dating disasters and they feel really discouraged and they wonder if they should give up. I show them how to make dating fun again and enjoy the journey to finally meeting the one. So the way we do that is together we make a plan, and it's personalized, and that way their soulmate comes in. And this wasn't always what I did. I've been in private practice for a number of years as a mental health counselor, and while I was doing that, a number of my clients were single and were very anxious to meet somebody special and to settle down in their life. And as I started to work with them, several different issues came up, and we worked together on clearing out some of these obstacles that were in their way. And that's mainly what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the 3 ways that we push love away. There's more than 3, but we're going to hit on the big ones today. And as I worked with my clients, they asked me can you write that down, and would you put that in some kind of a form that I could remember? And as I took notes and some of my people moved on into their life and were very happy and found that person, I realized that what I was really doing was putting together a book. And so I authored a book called Stop Looking and Let True Love Find You. Part of what I'm going to talk about today is some of the obstacles that get in the way that we aren't really very conscious of. We're not conscious of them ourselves.
Yes, and I love this topic, 3 ways you are pushing love away, because I think if most of us stopped and paid attention to that, we would realize that very often it's not that life is doing things to us, but that we are unconsciously doing things to our own lives. And this is a great way for us to get new insights and new perspectives. So, Joanne, this is a real treat for us, for our listeners, to get insight from someone who understands it from a psychological perspective, from a coaching perspective, and from a perspective of someone who has lived it herself. And I know you have a story about that as well. Why don't you briefly share with us your own story, and then we'll get into those 3 important points.
Sure. I'd love to tell this story. It's a great story. I was a single parent, divorced, probably for a period of 17 years. And during that time, I learned a lot about dating. I learned a lot about dating disasters, or at times I thought I had really found the one, and that turned out to not be true. And a lot of that time I needed to take a look inward to see what am I doing to attract or repel that person who I really want to be with. I really sincerely was ready, I thought, to get into a deep committed relationship. I can tell you that right now I'm happily married, and we will be celebrating our 15th wedding anniversary. And I believe I have met my soulmate. And that came through for me after I adjusted some things that I was doing that was pushing people away, which is why this is such a funny, hot topic for me, because we don't think we're doing that, and yet if we tweak it a little bit and if we actually can recognize that what we're doing is really turning people off instead of turning people on, it's a great way to then tweak how we're approaching life and then have it flow better and leave the pathway to meet that person who you really want to meet.
Well, that sounds wonderful, and I know that what you're talking about works for women regardless of their age. You don't have to be over 40 to take advantage of this insight. So why don't you start and tell us the first way that women will push love away and not even be aware of it?
Okay, in our subconscious mind, you may think that you don't deserve love, that actually what you deserve is pain. So the women who feel that underneath in their core really need to get clear about self-love first, that they are just a beautiful being, full of light, full of love, and that they deserve that kind of love in their life as well. So begin by training yourself to be better to yourself. No negative self-talk or put-downs or things that have you really think of yourself last. And if you need help with that, having someone who is a therapist or someone who is an outside person who can see your situation better, giving you some positive feedback could be very, very useful. So know that if you are showing ways that you think you don't deserve love, it's important to nip that one in the bud and to get clear and to clear out that block so that you can honestly open up your heart in the beautiful way that it's meant to be open so you can attract that loved one.
So, Joanne, I know that I've had many clients who will say, I love myself. I don't do that. That doesn't apply to me. And I bet in your practice as a therapist as well as your practice as a coach, you have found that isn't really the case, that a lot of people are in denial and don't even understand what they're saying to themselves or telling themselves or believing. Can you speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, one example is like you may be looking at a model in a magazine and you may say, oh, I'm not skinny enough. Look at how fat I look. Or you might be putting yourself down in other ways like, oh, I'm really too old to do that. I'm just too old to date, or whatever it is that you're making yourself not enough of. Those are self-deprivating comments that are obviously letting you know that underneath it, you don't think you deserve love, and you do deserve love, and you deserve it from yourself first, so that you are not putting yourself down and not making yourself less than, and that takes time to work that through. In other words, you need to really work on your subconscious mind in order to let yourself know that you are worthy and you are beautiful and you are lovable.
That's so important for people to understand. Is it also a possibility that some women who are not aware of this are attracting relationships in their lives, but they're not healthy relationships? They've been abused or bullied or manipulated or coerced or spoken in disrespectful ways, spoken to by their love partners. And so they have been in relationships and they say, well, I attract men in my life, but they are in relationships that really are not healthy and conscious and uplifting for them. Is that an example also of someone who may fall into this category?
Beautiful example. Absolutely right on with that one, yes.
So we have to be very aware, self-aware, and alert before we go dismiss and say, well, that doesn't apply to me, because very often what we are manifesting externally is an example that's reflecting where our consciousness is at and what we really do believe about ourselves. And I think that's just something that I always try to remind clients and help them see, because I know very often we just want to push away the thought that, oh, I don't love myself. That's not the case, and it may be showing in ways that we're just not really clear about.
Absolutely.
So before we step into the next point, I just want to take a short break. We are with WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. I'm Rosalind Sadaka, divorce and parenting coach, dating and relationship coach, and we will be right back.
Hi, everyone. This is Lisa Copeland, the host of the You Can Find Love After 50 show. You can catch my show on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, where we'll talk about how you can find love after 50. on the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network.
This is Cece Schatz, and I'm an inspirational speaker, divorce, life, and transitional coach with a unique style of healing from within. With that, been here, done that approach to life. I hope you'll join me each and every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time with Going Solo with Cece, where we bring you educational, informative discussions through the devastation feelings of divorce to finding yourself and redefining your best life. We will take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of divorce, parenting, being single, relationships, dating, and yes, sex. So be sure to tune in every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time with Going Solo with Cece.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Rosalind Sadaka with WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. We're talking with Joanne Simmons about the 3 ways you are pushing love away. Joanne, we're all eager to hear the second way. Let's dive right into that.
Okay, the second way is that you keep yourself too busy. I had a client lately, I should say I have a client, who says that she wants to get out into the world and date. And when we try to explore that, okay, so when do you have time to date? And her calendar is so full that she just simply has not made time for that. We need to look at what our priorities are and take a look at, what am I doing here? Am I closing myself off to all possibilities of balancing love and work and play? Important to stay in balance, even people who are tremendously busy in our world, like Michelle Obama or somebody who has a high-profile job. It's important to realize that a healthy balance is one of those things that helps us stay connected with ourselves and with the world in a very positive way. And it also makes you more attractive. So one of the ways that we unconsciously are pushing away that other person is to make ourselves so busy that we don't have time to date.
And again, is this something that people are not consciously aware of until you point it out to clients? Are they, rationalizing and saying, well, I'm just a busy person and I have these work demands, career demands, even family demands that are keeping me from getting out there? Is there a resistance in some women to see this?
There is, at least in some of the women that I have worked with, that's one of the top ways in which they're not ready yet to embrace that new love that's coming in. So it's important to be aware of what your choices are, and then you can consciously choose, I'm really keeping myself so busy I don't even have time to date. Then you're making a choice, and you're not wrong for that. That's perfectly okay. If you're conscious that what you're doing is you're too busy to date, and that's the choice that you're making. If you want to meet somebody and you want to be available to date and you want to have your life balanced out with love, and that becomes a higher priority, it's important to work on that particular element of your life and see what you can do to create some space and some room to let love in.
Yes. And I imagine that very often we may be meeting a partner who gets the idea just from looking at us and talking to us that we are too busy for a relationship, and they may nip the relationship in the bud before it even has a chance because they don't feel that you're giving them the space. Have you encountered any clients with that situation?
Yeah, I have. Again, it's okay to make the choices that you do, and it isn't up to me to help them decide which choices they're going to make, but it is important that they become aware that that's the choice they're making, and to make it more consciously rather than unconsciously.
Okay. And what is the third way we push love away?
Okay, the third way is that we are not allowing ourselves to show our vulnerability. Vulnerability is something that we feel like we don't want to show others. It's a place that we feel is weak. It's a time when you are letting that other person into your inner world and you're trusting them. So some people build kind of like up a wall, like saying, the guy I met, we're talking about women now, the guy I met, he's He wants to hold my hand. He wants to put his arm around me. I don't like any of that stuff. That is not for me. I just want to, just walk along just like a normal person, and that other stuff makes me feel uncomfortable. It's important to take a look at, could you be pushing someone away because you're afraid to be vulnerable? You're afraid you might be hurt. And again, it's a normal thing to be nervous about getting hurt if you've had a relationship where your heart was broken and you've had to heal from that, and you're afraid that could happen again. So in order to love yourself again and to really be ready to allow yourself an open heart to share with another person, it may be important for you to get some help with that, either a close friend who can help you see that issue that's going on for you, or a coach or a therapist or someone who can help you work through having to put up that block or that wall to keep people out.
And showing aside that we do want and need to be with someone. I know men are so programmed, of course, not to need anyone else and not to be vulnerable, but we don't think about how women try to do that as well, especially in our culture, because we're competing with men so much. And very often it's not a conscious decision we make, but we want to stand tall and proud and show that we're every bit as competent as anyone else. And sometimes that's sabotaging us in relationships because we just are not allowing a man to feel that he has a place in our life. Is that correct?
Yes, and it doesn't just have to do with a love partner or someone that you're dating. It can have to do with other relationships, friendships, family members, coworkers. We could be pushing people away in general with some of the behavior that we're showing, and missing out on real, true, deep connections, long-lasting friendships, and other ways that we feel valued and loved in this world.
So it's okay to show being vulnerable, it's okay to be vulnerable, and yet at the same time we don't want to be disempowered, and there's a fine line between those, I imagine.
Yeah, I would say that it's important for each person to see where their line is between holding on to their own power or whether they are, letting up on power. It's honestly not exactly where I would like to bring a person in terms of their experience. It's good to let that person feel their feelings more deeply so they're more in connection with themselves, and that way they can connect with others. If they're cut off from their own feelings, then they generally are cut off from other people as well.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's great, and that's really important, and it shows the deep conscious awareness that you bring to your coaching sessions and therapy when you're thinking about the client in that way. So that's wonderful. For your clients are very fortunate in that regard. And why don't you stop for a moment and tell us and everyone who's listening how they can find you and connect with you and possibly work with you and find your book.
Oh, sure. I'd be happy to. My website is called soulmatecoach.com. It's just exactly how it sounds, soulmatecoach.com. And on my website, you can see some of the things that I offer in terms of services. I also offer a free consultation, and this is a great way for you to get some information on your strategy and how it is you would like to meet somebody and what's happened with you so far, and maybe have some ideas about how to tweak that in order to be more successful with attracting a mate. I also would like to share my phone number for those who would rather call. It's 407-603-5082. My name is Joanne Simmons, and I am a love and relationship coach. And I look forward to hearing from you.
Well, I think since you offer a complimentary consultation, I think our listeners should really take advantage of the opportunity to connect with you, find out about the specific ways that you could be of value to them, and remind us, how do we find your book?
The book is also listed on my website. They can find
wonderful.
that on soulmatecoach.com.
So everything you need to know is at Soulmate Coach. Yes, excellent. Well, I want to thank you. We have been talking to Joanne Simmons, who is soulmate coach, dating and relationship coach, and she is someone who really gives a conscious perspective to dating and relationships, which is so important. And we've been honored to have you as a guest with us today, Joanne. Can you give us just a final word to leave us with before we say goodbye?
Sure. I'd like to say that after 17 years of being single, I personally experienced a very beautiful shift in my life when I met my husband. And sharing my life with him today is just amazing. I'm very happy, and I wish that for you, listeners, as well.
Oh, well, we all do, and that's a wonderful way to end our conversation today. So thank you, Joanne Simmons. And once again, I want to remind you that you have been listening to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. And this is Rosalind Sedaka, a dating and relationship coach as well as divorce and parenting coach. This show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living. And we are here every week to give you insights, awareness, advice, and always from the most conscious perspective on how to make your life the best possible life for you, to honor who you are. So I hope you'll join us on an ongoing basis and also tell your friends and colleagues about us so that we can have more conversations along these lines. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.